Our next ED talk is from Soula Bennett. Welcome, Soula, and good luck.
I'm not sure about that introduction. Good luck. Have you heard me present something before? Anyway, thank you for inviting me to give this presentation. And before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet today, their elders past and present, and anyone present who is Indigenous as well. Also, I would like to acknowledge that it is National Science Week. So again, thank you to the organisers for holding the 2-day conference at such an important time, and I'm sure that in the school communities you are celebrating National Science Week not as a one-off event, but it's embedded within the culture of your school, so well done. My name is Soula Bennett. I'm the Director of Quantum Victoria, Specialist Science and Maths Centre. I also want to acknowledge my colleagues who are present here, I think GTAC, and we also have John Monash Science School, and I'm sure in all the other schools you have initiatives happening. Students live in, and the world that they will be leaving to get a career pathway in once they leave our school communities. So we need to be able to prepare them adequately. And I'm sure as leaders within the school communities, you are looking at ways in doing this in a productive way, in an inclusive way, and as Will said before, rather than have a maker space, have a maker culture. Rather than have a STEM space, have a STEM culture. And that way you are able to ensure that what you are providing for your students, for your staff, for your parents, for the community is something that reflects what is actually happening in the real world. And we know that students learn best when they are able to make connections with real life applications, with things that are meaningful to them. Quantum Victoria is part of a network of 6 specialist science and maths centres. We are the youngest out of the 6, and we were launched in 2012. We aim to support the teaching and learning of STEM, so we don't replicate what occurs in the classrooms, we build on what occurs in the classroom. We don't only work with the students, we also work with the teachers. and we embrace aspirational technologies that your students are facing and will face when they enter the workforce. And in order for them to be literate in these areas, we need to ensure that the teachers that share the teaching and learning space with the students have the confidence and the competence to work alongside their students to ensure that they acquire the skills that are necessary for them to function in this world. We, from the onset, focused on STEM because not only does it reflect a national imperative, but it's also a Victorian imperative. And we ensure that we align our goals and our vision with what is actually happening and reflected across the nation. And we do this so that we can provide opportunities for students to build their capacity and to ensure that we inspire them so that they can become the next generation of innovators, as we've said there. I mentioned that it can't just happen with the students, so at Quantum Victoria, most of our programs are a one-day program. The students come along, they're immersed in STEM, but we invite the teachers and the education support staff who support them to join with us as facilitators or model learning with their students or do both. And this way the teachers are also immersed in STEM and have an opportunity to reflect on their practice and we hope take back some strategies that they can then think about implementing in their classrooms. And there are quite a few opportunities. We were fortunate to receive some funding from the department and have run quite a few free workshops for teachers, the Department of Education teachers. We haven't received funding next year, but I will be looking at providing some free places for Department of Education teachers so that we can ensure this collaboration and this partnership continues. We ran a STEM in Context for School Leaders conference on the 6th of June, and it's wonderful to see some familiar faces here. One of the activities, so we had Australia's Chief Scientist, we had Victoria's Lead Scientist, we had an expert panel of us, our peers, sharing their best practice in their school, but we also wanted to find out what was actually happening in the community. What were your thoughts as school leaders? So this conference was directed to principal class, to SEALs, to area managers, because you are the leaders of your communities and we want you to feel comfortable in this space. It is exciting, it's challenging, and you do need courage, but you also need to feel comfortable in this space. So one of the activities was this roundtable discussion, and I'll just share some of the points that came out that your peers came up with. These are some of the issues that are facing schools, and these are some of the answers to questions that people would like. So they see that we need we need to align with the industries with schools, so better collaboration, a blueprint or framework. So I'm not quite sure what Will thinks of that, but possibly that might mean that we want some more support from the department. Do current staff have the skills necessary to ensure that their students are able to function in a STEM environment? We need time for professional learning. That came out quite a bit. Need to focus on the soft skills, so it's not just about the technology per se, it's what comes with it, the collaboration, the creative thinking. But what was missing from Will's slide, I think, is the resilience. What we need to do with our students, and what we try and do, one of our aims at Quantum Victoria is to build resilience. So we get the students to engage in productive failure in order for them to transition from one job to the next, to the next, to the next, and most of them will have possibly 10 different jobs. They will need this resilience. They will need to have the soft skills that support the hard skills for them to function in this environment. learning from our students and greater student voice, gender imbalance in the workforce. That's something that we need to look at as a nation. My second last slide. So this is what's going to happen. By 2020, over a third of the skills that are considered important in today's workforce will change. We want our students to acquire learning agility, the ability to learn, adapt, apply, and we need that. We need them to do this continuously because we are part of the fourth industrial revolution. Why does that matter? I'll leave you with this. The Global Innovation Index was released today. Australia has dropped from position 17 to 19. New Zealand has now the position of 17. Top is Switzerland, Sweden and the UK. We need to ensure that we are a collective voice, that we inform our governments that we need support in our schools, not just rhetoric. We want support. So anyway, thank you. Come to the table, we're just sitting up there and I'll be able to give you more information.